in Perth paid close to $90,000 for a Mercedes-badged Ute back in 2019. Last month, a nearly identical example sold through car sales for under 25 grand, less than what a 5-year-old Hilux with high Ks is asking for right now. That's not a fluke, and it's not bad luck for whoever bought it new. That's what happens every time a car company sells you a badge, but the metal, the chassis, and the engine underneath came from somewhere else entirely. Here's the part almost nobody talks about with so-called luxury Utes. The badge is what gets expensive. The diesel engine, the axles, the chassis, that's usually borrowed straight from a workhorse Ute that never carried a luxury price tag at all. Once depreciation does its job, you can buy that same engineering, wrapped in leather, for less than tradies are paying for a base model dual cab. Today I'm going through 4 Utes that were priced like status symbols when new and now sit on the used market for scrap metal money, and by the end you'll know exactly which one I'd park in my own driveway tomorrow. Holden Colorado Z71, 2017 to 2020. When Holden launched the Colorado Z71 in 2017, it wasn't cheap. Drive-away pricing for the top-spec dual cab pushed past $55,000 once dealer extras were added, positioning it above the LTZ as the flagship of the range, with leather trim, a locking rear differential, and off-road tuned suspension. Underneath that badge, the Z71 rides on the same RG platform General Motors co-developed with Isuzu, meaning the bones of this truck are shared with the D-Max, a Ute with one of the most respected diesel drivetrains in the country. The engine is a 2.8-litre Duramax turbo diesel 4-cylinder, producing 147 kilowatts and 500 newton-meters of torque, paired with a 6-speed automatic, a proper low-range transfer case, and a brake towing capacity of 3,500 kilograms. Then, in 2020, Holden announced it was shutting down in Australia altogether. Dealers slashed prices to clear stock, and buyers got nervous about parts and resale. Today, a well-kept Z71 from 2017 or 2018 with under 150,000 kilometers regularly changes hands for under $20,000 on car sales, sometimes closer to 15. The honest caveat here isn't the mechanicals, it's the brand. Holden is gone, which means no more factory-backed dealer network and a shrinking pool of genuine trim parts. Independent workshops and GM or Isuzu specialists can keep one running for decades, since so much shares part numbers with the D-Max, but you do need a mechanic who knows that crossover, and owners on Colorado and D-Max forums regularly note that Holden-specific interior and trim pieces are getting harder to source every year. If you're looking at one, start with the timing chain tensioner on early 2.8-litre Duramax engines, which has had documented reports of premature wear on high-kilometer examples. Ask for the service book and check whether it's been inspected or replaced. Cycle the four-wheel drive system through low range in a car park and listen for any clunking as the front differential engages. Check the difference lock engages cleanly at low speed. And inspect the rear leaf springs for sagging if the truck has spent its life towing, since that's usually the first thing to go on a trade-used example. Who should buy this? Anyone who wants a genuinely capable, well-equipped tow rig and doesn't care about the badge on the tailgate anymore, because nobody's buying a Holden for resale value at this point, they're buying it to use. Who should skip it? Someone who wants dealer backup and a warranty network they can walk into on a Saturday, because that part of the ownership experience died with the brand. Nissan Navara D40 STX 550, 2010 to 2015. Back in 2010, Nissan dropped a Ute onto the Australian market that had no real rival at the time. The STX 550 launched at close to $49,000 before on-road costs, and once you auctioned it up, drive-away pricing pushed past $55,000, an enormous ask for a dual cab in 2010, when most Utes were still selling for half that. That price bought you the same D40 platform underpinning the Nissan Pathfinder SUV of the era, a proper body-on-frame chassis with independent front suspension and coil-sprung rear axle options that made it ride noticeably better than the leaf-sprung workhorses parked next to it on dealer lots. But the number that actually mattered was under the bonnet. Nissan fitted a 3.0-litre V6 turbo diesel producing 170 kilowatts and 550 newton-meters of torque, making the STX 550 the most powerful production Ute sold in Australia at the time, a title it held for years. 15 years on, that same truck barely registers on the used market. Clean 2011 to 2013 examples with genuine service history are listed on Car Sales and Cars Guide for between $13,000 and $20,000, and rougher, higher kilometer trucks go for even less. Here's the caveat, and it's well documented, not a rumor. Early D40 V6 models built before Nissan's running changes around 2012 have a genuine history of timing chain problems, showing up as a rattle on cold start that gets worse with kilometers. Owner communities on Navara D40 forums have discussed this for well over a decade, and it's serious enough that a failed chain can take the internals of the engine with it. So if you're looking at one, cold start it first thing in the morning, before the engine's warmed through, and listen carefully for rattling in the first few seconds of ignition. Ask specifically whether the timing chain has already been replaced or inspected, and get that in writing if the seller claims it has. Check the service book for consistent oil changes, since neglected servicing is what accelerates chain wear in the first place. And get a workshop to scan the engine for stored fault codes before you commit, because a well-maintained example with the chain already sorted is a genuinely different proposition to one that's never been touched. Who should buy this? Someone chasing serious towing power and V6 refinement for the price of a base model new hatchback, who's willing to budget for a timing chain inspection as part of the purchase. Who should skip it? Anyone who wants a set-and-forget ute with zero mechanical homework, because this one comes with a known asterisk you need to plan around.
Volkswagen Amarok V6 2 heures, 2017-2022.
When Volkswagen introduced the V6 Amarok in 2017, it wasn't playing in the same price bracket as a Hilux or a Ranger. Top-spec Ultimate, and later Aventura and Dark Label variants, stickered north of $75,000 drive away, with some fully optioned examples pushing past 80. That money bought genuine Volkswagen Group engineering. The 3.0-litre V6 turbo diesel in the Amarok comes from the same engine family Volkswagen and Audi used across parts of their SUV and performance diesel range, an engine architecture with a reputation for smoothness and durability that most dual-cab utes simply couldn't match. In its most powerful tune, that V6 produced 190 kilowatts and 580 newton-meters of torque, paired with an 8-speed automatic and a permanent four-wheel drive system with a locking center differential, giving it car-like on-road manners for a ute and a brake towing capacity of 3,500 kilograms. Despite all that, depreciation on these has been brutal. Right now on car sales you can find a 2017 V6 TDI 550 Highline, one step below the flagship trims, listed at $19,999 with under 150,000 kilometers on the clock. That's a truck that cost over $70,000 new, changing hands for barely a quarter of that figure. The honest issue with these isn't the engine, which has a solid reputation. It's the 8-speed ZF automatic transmission and the dual-mass flywheel on manual variants, both of which have shown up in independent workshop reports and forum threads as expensive to service if neglected. Parts support through Volkswagen dealers in Australia can also be slower and pricier than for a mainstream Japanese ute. Before buying one, get the transmission fluid and filter service history check specifically, since these ZF automatics are sensitive to running on old fluid. Take it for a proper test drive and feel for any flare or hesitation between gears, particularly under load or towing. If it's a manual, listen for clutch shudder pulling away from a stop, which points to a tired dual-mass flywheel. And confirm whether the truck has had any Volkswagen Australia service campaign work completed, since this generation had several covering everything from fuel system components to airbag parts. Who should buy this? Someone who wants the most refined, most powerful dual-cab engineering money can buy right now for used Hilux money, and who's happy to budget for proper dealer-level servicing when it's due. Who should skip it? Anyone chasing bulletproof, ignore it 4 years reliability, because this is genuinely excellent engineering, but it rewards proper maintenance more than a Toyota ever demands. If this kind of straight-talking breakdown is useful to you, hit subscribe, because there's one more of these I genuinely buy myself, and it's coming up right now. Mercedes-Benz X-Class, 2018 to 2020. If you want the most extreme version of this entire story, it's the Mercedes-Benz X-Class. When it launched in Australia in 2018, top-spec X350D power variants were priced from around $89,870 before on-road costs, making it, at the time, the most expensive dual-cab ute you could buy new in this country by a wide margin. Mercedes-Benz didn't build this ute from scratch. It was developed through an alliance with Nissan and Renault, sharing its platform, chassis, and much of its running gear with the Nissan Navara NP300, the same generation ute sold new for roughly half the price. What you were paying the extra tens of thousands of dollars for was Mercedes badge, cabin trim, and finish, not a fundamentally different truck underneath. The flagship X350D used a 3.0-litre V6 turbo diesel producing 190 kilowatts and 550 newton-meters of torque, with a 7-speed automatic and permanent four-wheel drive, genuinely strong numbers for the segment at the time, plus a 5-ton brake towing capacity. Mercedes pulled the plug on the X-Class globally in 2020, barely 2 years after launch, a commercial failure that tanked resale values almost overnight. Today, 2018 examples are listed on car sales anywhere from $21,450 up to around $44,440, depending on kilometers and condition, a fraction of what the badge cost new. The honest caveat is straightforward. You're not buying rare Mercedes engineering, you're buying a Nissan Navara underneath a very good interior, and because the model was discontinued so quickly, dealer part support and specialist knowledge is thinner than for the mechanically identical Navara sitting on the lot next to it. Any workshop that services a Navara NP300 can generally service an X-Class, but not every Mercedes dealer wants the job, and that gap matters the day something goes wrong. Because the mechanicals mirror the Navara, apply the same checks you would to that Ute. Cold start it and listen for any diesel injector rattle beyond what's normal. Check the service history for genuine diesel particulate filter servicing, since neglected regeneration cycles cause the same problems here as on any modern diesel Ute. Inspect the leather trim and cabin electronics carefully, since these are the components that actually separate this from a Navara, and the ones most expensive to repair if something's failed. And confirm the four-wheel drive system engages smoothly in a car park test, exactly as you would on any dual cab. Who should buy this one? Someone who wants the most genuinely capable diesel V6 driveline on this whole list, wrapped in the nicest cabin of the four, for less than half of what a new base model dual cab costs today. Who should skip it? Anyone nervous about buying a Ute from a brand that's already walked away from a segment, because the badge that made it expensive new is exactly what makes parts and specialist support thinner now. So there they are. 4 Utes that were priced like status symbols when new, and today sit on the used market for a fraction of that money. The Holden Colorado Z71, a properly equipped tow rig built on Isuzu bones, cheap because the brand disappeared, not because the truck failed. The Nissan Navara D40 STX 550, the most powerful Ute in the country back in 2010, now available for the price of a decent second-hand hatchback, provided you budget for a timing chain check. The Volkswagen Amarok V6, genuinely the best engineered diesel driveline on this list, now going for barely a quarter of its original sticker. And the Mercedes-Benz X-Class, the most expensive Ute badge Australia has ever seen, now selling for less than the Nissan it was built on top of. If I had to put my own money down tomorrow, it's the Amarok V6. That combination of genuine engineering pedigree, real torque, and a price that's collapsed harder than almost anything else on this list is hard to walk past. But every one of these trucks proves the same point. The badge is what gets expensive, and the engineering underneath is usually what's actually worth buying. Next time someone tells you a luxury Ute isn't worth looking at secondhand, send them this video.